If you're not with them, you don't need to explain anything. If they really want to change, there is enough support out here, whether it be here on YouTube, whether it be going to a coach, going to a therapist, going to group counseling, whatever it is. There are other options. You don't need to be one of them. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel where we talk about overcoming toxic or narcissistic relationships. My name is Nailah. If you are new here, I am a mental health therapist turned toxic relationship coach, and I work specifically with women who are looking to heal after toxic or narcissistic relationships and breaking the toxic cycle for good. So if that sounds like something you need, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and stay tuned. Let's get into this topic. So in my personal and professional experience, most women who find themselves in toxic or narcissistic relationships are typically ambitious, high-achieving women. And that is usually because toxic, manipulative, narcissists, whatever you want to call them, they are typically people who are all about image, right? And they want to connect to people that they can leech off from, that they can benefit from, that they can look good around, right? It helps their image. So as we are approaching 2023, I'm sure you are here setting your 2023 goals, which is great. We made it through 2022. We made it through pandemic and smallpox and all this crazy stuff going on. And it feels good to be able to say, okay, we're stepping into a new year. These are the things I want to accomplish. But there are 3 key points that I want you to pay attention to as you are setting these 2023 goals. Now, these 3 points that I'm talking about applies to you if you are still in a toxic or narcissistic relationship, or you are technically considered out of the relationship, but you are still somewhat connected to the person. Connected in the form of maybe you're in contact with them, they check in on you, you check in on them. There is some connection still going on between you and that person. This video is for you. Let's go. So the first point that you need to consider as you're setting your 2023 goals, but you're still somehow connected to this toxic or narcissistic partner, is that success does not only revolve around your career or your finances. Now, this is a really important topic that I want to bring up because I realize that we are in this time where we are basing our self-value, our self-worth based on how we look on paper, how we look on a resume, how we look to the outside world, right? And what I want to encourage you to do is to try not to go down this superficial spiral, right? This empty spiral. I call it empty because what happens is when you are so concerned about how you look to the outside world, right? She's killing it in her career. She's getting promotions. She started a business. The business is booming. Her finances are good. She has assets. She has a house. She has the car, right? She has all these nice things. But internally, you are still suffering because you are subjecting yourself to continuous abuse. You are subjecting yourself to manipulation. You are subjecting yourself to someone who is breaking you internally. So try not to be too focused on how you look on the outside, right? And this doesn't mean you have to share your business with everyone. But you do want to be real with yourself. You do want to be honest with yourself, because just because you look well on the outside, it doesn't mean that it's still not affecting you. Just because you're doing well in your career and financially, it doesn't mean that this relationship is still not having a negative effect on you. And I think that is something that keeps women in denial, right? I'm still doing well. It's like a functioning alcoholic, right? I have a job. I'm doing well in my career. But you're still knocking back alcohol, excessively, right? A functioning alcoholic. So it doesn't mean that you're not hurting yourself internally. You might look good to everyone else, but internally you are still suffering. So pay attention that you are not getting caught up in our new era of, looking flashy, looking good, impressing, keeping up with the Joneses, but internally you're suffering. The second important point that I want you to consider when you are setting your 2023 goals as an ambitious, high-achieving woman is to release that limited mindset that you can't have it all. So often I see, and I've been there myself, for those of you who know me, I'm a mental health therapist turned toxic relationship coach, and I've been there too, where everything else is going pretty well in your life. You're killing it with your goals. You're doing well in other areas. However, you feel like, well, the relationship is not going the way I want, but that's the best it can be. No, you can have it all. You can have it all. And that's not coming from a space of delusion that everything is perfect, but it does come from a space that you need to raise your standards. The same way you're doing well in your career, the same way you're doing well in other areas of your life, is the same way you can have a healthy and happy relationship in your life as well. And if you can't have it right now, it doesn't mean you can't have it later, but you can't get to that later if you are allowing a toxic or manipulative or narcissistic, destructive person to consume your time and energy now. Now, for those of you who know, you know I'm all about healing. I'm not just about coming onto these episodes and just sharing information, but it's about how do we transform? How do we get results? How do we unlearn some of the toxic traits, or let me not say toxic, but some of the self-sabotaging traits that we have that got us in this situation, that kept us in that situation, right? So I want you to also think about, where is this limited mindset coming from? And based on my observation working with clients, and again, even in my own personal life, it also comes from our surroundings. When you are surrounded by people where you see them doing well in other areas of their life, but they're tolerating, they may be strong with other people, they may be assertive with other people, right? They may be doing well in their life, accomplishing their goals, but with that one person, they're tolerating very toxic behavior. That becomes normal for you. Over time, whatever we are exposed to over time starts to become normal. And that is why it is so important, as we are healing, we have to look at things from a logical standpoint, not an emotional attachment of, oh, this is just how it is, and it becomes normal. No, does this really make sense? Is there logic behind this? If I'm so strong in this one area, and I said it in the beginning of this episode, that most women that find themselves in these situations are ambitious, are high achieving, but they're also very assertive. They're also very strong. But when it comes to that toxic partner, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense, right? People on the outside can think, how is she dealing with that? Why is she dealing with that? And somehow you know that about yourself as well. That is why you may tend to cover things up, which is normal. Again, I've been there. So a part of breaking that limited mindset is not normalizing that. Not normalizing that I am person A over here, but with this toxic person, I become person B. No. Be the same person across the board, the same ambitious, high achieving, high standard person you are, assertive person that you are in other areas of your life. Bring it over here too, right? And of course, that's easier said than done, but it's possible and it's necessary. And what you don't want to do is have all these great goals going into 2023, because you're probably going to crush them like you crushed them this year and the years before, right? But you're dragging along dead weight. You're dragging along someone who does not deserve you. You're dragging along someone who is breaking you, even though you may look well put together on the outside, but internally they're breaking you. Don't drag along that dead weight. So the third point that I want you to consider as you are setting your 2023 goals, yet still connected to a toxic relationship, a toxic partner, whether present or ex, but they still have access to you, even whether it's every day or every couple of months, right? I want you to consider the fact that the longer you stay connected to this person, the more work you're giving yourself, the more destructive version of yourself that you're creating. And I want to explain that, because I know that might sound a bit crazy. And let me say this too. This is something you don't realize that's happening when you're in it, because you're in survival mode. You may not see it now if you're still connected to them, but you are in survival mode. You have adapted traits. You have adapted characteristics in order to deal with someone who is manipulative, in order to deal with someone who is emotionally abusive, right? You have developed these traits. So these traits are not wrong, right? It's to keep you above water, but it's not really who you are. And the longer you stay there, the more compounding that's happening of these traits that are actually traits that you don't want. And when you are finally out of it, hoping that you do get out of it at some point, now you have a whole lot of unlearning to do. A whole lot of peeling away of all these layers of traits that is actually not who you are, that's not going to serve you in a new healthy relationship. And now you have to do all this work to unlearn this. So let me give you some example of these traits that we're talking about. One of them is you become guarded, right? And you become guarded because what this relationship has taught you is that people are not to be trusted, that people will try you, that people can be nice today and try to break you tomorrow, right? People can try to support you in one way but sabotage you in another way, because this is what you've been around. This is what has become normal to you. So at some point you become guarded. You're always keeping one eye open because you're just waiting for someone to turn on you. And while that may help you in the situation that you're in now, connected to this person, again, whether you're fully in the relationship or somehow still connected to them, because you better believe, even if you're not in a relationship with a toxic or narcissistic person, any little contact with them, a phone call, anything, they're going to try you. They're going to try you because that's their nature. That is just their nature. That's who they are. So this trait of being guarded is what has kept you alive, for the lack of a better term. It's kept you, to be able to survive in this toxic, unhealthy relationship. But however, again, when you get out of it, you want to start a new relationship. Now you have this trait that actually does not fit with a healthy person, right? Now you're being overly guarded with a healthy person. You're being overly guarded with people just in general around you, because in your mind, this is just how people are, but it's not. It's the type of person that you've exposed yourself to and that you have kept yourself in. And the longer you are there, the harder it is to let that go. Another trait that I'm talking about that can come along with staying in a toxic situation is that you may become aggressive, right? And that can look different, that's relative comparatively to different situations. But let me give my example for a moment. As I started into a new relationship, I had to realize I didn't need to address conflicts with aggression, right? Even if it was passive aggression. Now, that is a survival skill that I had developed in a toxic relationship, because that is how the person interacted with me. And let me say this. I'm not only talking physical aggression. People can be aggressive from an emotional standpoint. People can be aggressive from a verbal standpoint. Again, being manipulated emotionally, right? Trying to break you emotionally, that is still a form of aggression, and that is what I experienced. So don't fool yourself. Don't think because someone isn't hitting you, putting their hands on you, that doesn't mean that it's not aggressive. Right? So that is something that I had to work on as I started in a new relationship, that I can handle conflict without expecting aggression and without retaliating with aggression. But that takes time. And the longer that you were in there, in that situation, connected to that person, again, even if they're just talking to you on the phone from time to time, you're still connected to them and you're still holding on to this survival trait, which again was normal and what helped you, but you don't need it throughout your entire life. So try not to create too much work for yourself in the future when you do want to start over fresh and start in new healthy relationships. Now, I intended to give you 3 points to consider as you're setting these 2023 goals, but I'm going to throw in a bonus that just came to mind, but I feel like it's something you really need to hear. Wasting time trying to change others who do not want to change. They may pretend they want to change. This toxic or manipulative person may pretend they want to change just to keep some type of connection to you, just to still be attached to you in some way. And let's be honest with ourselves. I really want you to look internally here. Again, I'm not just here to talk about all the things that they do wrong, but we need to look internally. Why am I doing this? Sometimes we are fixated on changing others because we don't want to accept that they are who they are. Or we want to distract ourselves from the more important matters that we need to focus on, which is self. Right? So as you were setting your 2023 goals and you're still connected to this toxic person, because this is a trait I've seen with clients as well. They're out of the relationship, but they're still talking to the person from time to time, or, they consider it being good or godly or Christian-like or whatever it is. I'm still talking to them. I'm explaining how they should be different. And you're trying to be a therapist to them, right? Everybody is not there for you to save. And that's coming from me, who I also share that trait. That's also something that keeps us or gets us into these situations and keeps us there, because we see the good potential. We think that if we explain life and explain a different way of being to these type of people, that they can change. That doesn't apply here. They are different. They know exactly who they are. They know who you are. That's why they picked you. But they know who they are, and they're comfortable in being who they are. And you can talk until you are blue in your face. They have no interest on changing. So look at that for 2023. And again, you may say, well, I'm taking care of business. I'm doing everything else in my life. A conversation here and there or explaining certain things to them, that's not hurting me. You are wasting your time. We all have 24 hours in a day. That energy, and it's not just time, but it's the energy. It's the energy that you put into this person, and it's the energy that you get back from this person, right? That also affects us. So think twice. For 2023, as you're setting these goals, think twice about how much time am I putting into this person, that I'm here preaching to this person, that I'm telling them how, maybe you're like this because of the situation you've been through in your past, and all you need to do is be this way, and I'm going to tell you how you need to treat me. If you're not with them, you don't need to explain anything. If they really want to change, there is enough support out here, whether it be here on YouTube, whether it be going to a coach, going to a therapist, going to group counseling, whatever it is, there are other options. You don't need to be one of them. So at this point in the episode, you've learned 4 key points, right? We spoke about 3 and I threw in a bonus there. You learned 4 key points to consider as you are setting your 2023 goals. The first one we spoke about was that success does not revolve only around your career and finances. Relationship is a part of that. So as you are setting your goals, don't just think, superficially that because I'm doing well here, I can ignore that area. You deserve to have it all. And that's the second point. Don't have that limited mindset. Release that limited mindset that you can't have it all. You can. And again, even if you can't have it right now, and that means being completely detached from this toxic or narcissistic person, you are then opening your space to heal. You are opening your space to then let in something new and something healthy. So that was the second point. The third point we spoke about to consider was that the longer that you stay in the relationship, the more work you give yourself in the future, the more traits that you have to unlearn, those survival traits that you have with that person or in that relationship, that is more work for yourself to do. So the quicker you get out, the quicker you can get to then unlearning those toxic traits, or let's say those destructive traits. And the fourth point we spoke about was that you don't want to go into 2023 wasting your time trying to heal, help, and save a toxic, destructive, manipulative, or narcissistic person. Put that energy in yourself. Let them fix themselves. More than likely, they're not interested to, because that's not a part of their personality traits. But whatever they choose to do, that is their business. Focus on you. Release that need to be in denial. Release that need to procrastinate, because that's typically what we're doing. But again, it's also related to being in denial about who they are. Who they are does not determine who you are. It can feel embarrassing at times, and that is why we hold on to it. But honey, you are who you are. Release it and bring the energy and the focus back to you. Now, for those of you who are new to me, you may not realize this yet, or maybe you have. I go back and forth. I use toxic and narcissistic interchangeably. Just because a situation is toxic doesn't necessarily mean they're narcissistic, but we are in a time where people are much more aware of personality disorders, personality disorder traits, and sometimes people are able to identify a person as being narcissistic. But let me tell you who I am. I am not big on labels. Labels help us to a certain extent. It allows us to be able to articulate and explain what we see and be able to communicate with each other. But when we're talking about actually healing and having transformation for ourselves, it goes much further beyond that. But if you are a bit confused about, is my situation toxic, go ahead and click the video somewhere here on the screen. I think it'll be down here somewhere, that will give you some examples and explain a little bit about what a toxic relationship looks like. Talking about down below, if you look in the description box below, I have 2 free gifts for you. You have the book that you see right here behind me of 3 mistakes I made personally in toxic relationships and how you can avoid them. There's also a free holiday survival guide for those that have a toxic ex and you're just trying to maintain your peace. You have a feeling that they may pop up, or that they may resurface, or maybe they have already started, and it's just a bit challenging. I also have a video about that, so you can check my channel for that, but you have a free survival holiday guide as well in the description box below. Guys, if you have at least 2 people that you think can benefit from this information, go ahead and share it with them, and I will see you in the next episode.